Hello there, and welcome back to Deep Earth Stories. Tonight, we go somewhere most people have never thought to look, not forward into the future, not sideways into space, but backward, deep backward, into a time so old, so quiet, so forgotten, that even the stones have stopped trying to explain it. Get comfortable, turn the lights down if you can. Because what we're about to explore together has been waiting a very, very long time for someone to listen. But before that, tell me comments, where are you listening from and what time is there right now? I want to take you somewhere tonight. Somewhere very, very far away. Not far in distances, but far in time. So far back that the word ancient doesn't quite cover it. So far back that every mountain you've ever seen, every ocean you've ever touched, every city ever built, none of it existed yet. We're going back 150 million years, maybe more. We're going back to the Jurassic. Now when you hear that word, maybe you think of movies. Maybe you picture sharp teeth and running feet, and the deep shaking thud of enormous creatures on the ground. And yes, there were creatures like that. We'll visit them gently tonight. But the Jurassic was so much more than that. It was a whole world, a full breathing, living world wrapped in warm air and green light and the slow sound of ancient seas. It was a world that lasted for more than 50 million years. Think about that for a moment. 50 million years. All of human history. Every civilization, every war, every kingdom, every language fits into just the last 12,000 years or so. The Jurassic lasted more than 4,000 times longer than that. Tonight we're going to walk through that world together. Slowly. Gently. There is no rush. If your eyes feel heavy, that's okay. If you drift off somewhere in the middle of this story, that's okay too. The Jurassic will still be here when you come back. It waited 150 million years already. It can wait a little longer, so get comfortable now. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw relax. Let your hands rest open at your sides. And let's begin. Before we step into that ancient world, I want to ask you something soft and simple. Have you ever stood outside on a warm summer night and looked up at the stars? Maybe you felt it. That quiet feeling. That feeling of being very small and the sky being very, very large. And somewhere in that feeling, there is a kind of peace. Because when we feel small in the right way, not frightened but awed, something in us relaxes. Something lets go. That is the feeling I want you to carry tonight. Because tonight's story is about a world that existed long before us. A world that had no humans, no roads, no cities. A world that was alive and full and beautiful in ways we can barely imagine. And yet, and this is the part I find most calming, that world led slowly and gently step by step to this moment. To you lying here, breathing softly, listening to this voice. Everything connects. Every creature that lived in the Jurassic, every leaf that fell into a warm shallow sea, every footstep in ancient mud, all of it in its own quiet way led to now. So here is my gentle question for tonight. What if the world has always been stranger and more beautiful than we know? What if the version of Earth we live on right now is just one chapter in a story that has been going on for billions of years? Hold that thought softly. Don't squeeze it. Just let it rest in your mind like a smooth stone in a still pond, and let's walk into the Jurassic together. Imagine you're standing on a beach, but not a beach you've ever seen before. The sand beneath your feet is warm, warmer than you'd expect. The air around you is thick and wet and rich with the smell of green things. Plants you don't recognize line the shore behind you. Giant ferns taller than houses. Trees that look almost like modern trees, but not quite. Everything is a deeper shade of green. The kind of green that feels alive in a way that makes you stop and stare. The ocean in front of you is blue-green and calm. shallow near the shore, deepening slowly into the distance, and it is enormous. Much larger than any ocean you know, because the world you're standing in is not the world you know. The continents, all these great land masses we call Africa, Europe, the Americas, Asia, in the Jurassic, they were not where they are today. They were not even fully separated yet. Long before the Jurassic, all of Earth's land was joined together into one giant supercontinent. Scientists call it Pangaea, a single, massive landmass surrounded by a single enormous ocean called Pangaea. But by the time the Jurassic began, roughly 200 million years ago, Pangaea was beginning to break apart, slowly, and so slowly that no creature alive could have felt it happening. Millimetre by millimetre, year by year, the land was pulling itself apart. By the middle of the Jurassic, two great land masses had formed. Scientists call them Laurasia in the north, which would eventually become Europe, Asia and North America, and Gondwana in the south, which would become Africa, South America, Antarctica, Australia, and India. Between them, a warm, shallow sea was beginning to grow. Scientists call it the Tethys Sea, and it was beautiful, warm and shallow and full of life. Now I want you to feel this in your body for a moment. Imagine something as large as a continent, moving, not fast but moving, shifting, breathing almost. Like the Earth itself is slowly rearranging itself, making new shapes, trying new forms. It has been doing this for billions of years before the Jurassic, and it would continue for billions of years after. We live on a moving world. We always have. The ground beneath your bed tonight is moving even now, so slowly you will never feel it. But it is moving. There is something deeply calming about that, I think. About knowing that even the things we think of as solid and permanent and fixed, even they are changing. Even they are on a long, slow journey, just like us. Let's stay in that ancient world for a moment longer. Close your eyes, if they aren't already closed. Imagine the Jurassic sky above you. It is a bright, pale blue, not quite the same shade of blue you see today. Slightly different, slightly hazier, softer. The air is thicker than modern air, warmer, more humid. More carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, drifted through the atmosphere, which meant the whole planet ran warmer than it does today. There were no polar ice caps in the Jurassic, or at least very little of them. The poles were cold, yes, but not covered in the deep, permanent sheets of ice we think of today, and because of that, sea levels were higher. Much of the land we know as shallow coastal areas today was underwater then. The global temperature was perhaps 5 to 10 degrees warmer on average than today's Earth. Warm enough that tropical forests stretched much further north and south than they do now. Warm enough that creatures could live in regions that are today too cold for large animals. It sounds intense, I know, but try to feel it gently, not as a hot, uncomfortable thing, but as a warm, lush, ancient thing. Like a greenhouse. Like stepping into a botanical garden full of enormous ferns and the soft sound of rain on broad leaves. The rain in the Jurassic was different too, because the continents were positioned differently. The patterns of rainfall across the planet were unlike anything we see today. Some regions were very wet, dense, steaming, green. Others were dry, almost desert-like, and some sat in between, a mosaic of grassless plains, fern meadows and thick forests. There was no grass. I want to pause on that for a moment because it is one of the strangest facts about the Jurassic world. No grass. Grass, the simple, green stuff that covers lawns and meadows and savannas, did not yet exist during the Jurassic. It would not evolve until much later, tens of millions of years after the Jurassic ended. And because there was no grass, the ground in open areas was covered instead with ferns, mosses, horsetails and cycads. ancient plants that look almost like small palm trees. Picture a wide open plain with no grass. Instead, soft ferns carpet the ground. They rustle gently in a warm breeze. Their fronds catch the morning light and glow a pale golden green. And walking through that carpet of ferns, something enormous. We will get to the creatures soon, but first, let us rest here for a moment. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body feels right now, how your back rests against whatever you are lying on, how the weight of your limbs feels a little heavier than before. That heaviness is a good feeling. That is your body saying, I am here, I am safe, I can rest, let it rest. I want to talk about the plants now, because I think we often skip past them when we talk about the Jurassic. We go straight to the dinosaurs, but the plants, the forests, the ferns, the towering trees, they were the world that everything else lived inside. They were the backdrop, the atmosphere, the quiet heart of that ancient place. And they were extraordinary. Imagine you are walking now through a Jurassic forest. Not a rainforest as you might picture it today. No flowering trees, no orchids, no brightly coloured blossoms. The Jurassic was, botanically speaking, a world before flowers. Flowering plants, what scientists call angiosperms, had not yet evolved, or were only just barely beginning to appear near the very end of the Jurassic. For most of this period, the world was greenless in the sense of flower colour. No reds, no yellows, no purples from blossoms, than just green, deep, rich, ancient green. The trees around you are conifers, tall, straight, ancient conifers, the ancestors of today's pines and redwoods and spruces. Some of them are enormous, taller than you can easily look up at. Their bark is rough and dark. Their branches stretch out wide, filtering the bright Jurassic sunlight into soft moving patches of shadow on the ground below. Beneath the conifers, tree ferns sway in the warm air. Some of them grow 20-30 feet tall, their thick trunks topped with great crowns of fern fronds that curl and uncurl slowly in the breeze, and lower still, at the ground level, a carpet of smaller ferns, mosses and horsetails. Horsetails, plants that look almost like small bamboo, segmented and hollow, grew in the Jurassic in enormous numbers, especially near water. They are one of the oldest plant forms on Earth. Today you can still find small horsetails growing along streams and in wet areas. When you see them, you're looking at something that survived the entire Jurassic, the extinction of the dinosaurs, every ice age, every catastrophe. It just quietly kept growing. I find that deeply reassuring. The idea of something so simple and small and green, surviving so much, for so long. There were also cycads. If you've ever seen a cycad, they still exist today, mostly in tropical gardens. They look like a cross between a fern and a palm tree. In the Jurassic, they were everywhere. They dominated the landscape in many regions. Their thick, pineapple-textured trunks rose from the ground, topped with a ring of stiff, feathery leaves. They grew slowly, lived long, and spread across the Jurassic world from the equator almost to the poles. The ginkgo tree also lived in the Jurassic, the exact same tree, or nearly so, that you can still find planted in city parks and sidewalks today. With its distinctive fan-shaped leaves, with its ancient, quiet presence. When you walk past a ginkgo tree today, and you might, they're commonly planted in streets and gardens around the world, you're walking past a living piece of the Jurassic. A tree form so successful, so perfectly suited to life, that it survived 150 million years without needing to change much at all. These plants were not just decoration, they were everything. They were the food, the shelter, the oxygen. They were the reason the giant plant-eating dinosaurs could grow so large. Because there was so much food, so many ferns, so many cycads, so many tall conifers, and because the world was so warm and wet and rich, plant growth was extraordinary. The world was green and breathing, and on the ground, and in the trees, and in the air, and in the warm seas. Life was everywhere. Before we meet the creatures, let us pause here, just for a moment, because this is a long journey and you do not need to race through it. If your mind has begun to drift, that is perfectly fine. You might have missed a few sentences. You might have floated somewhere between this voice and a dream. That is exactly where you're supposed to be. Come back gently if you want to, or stay wherever you are. Notice your breathing. Notice how your chest rises and falls. In the Jurassic, something was breathing too. Millions of things. The warm air of that ancient world moved in and out of lungs and gills and the tiny pores of leaves in a constant, quiet rhythm. Life breathed then just as you breathe now. The world has always been full of breathing things. You're part of that long, long story. Rest here for a moment, and when you're ready, let's walk a little further. Now we can talk about the dinosaurs, but let me start not with the biggest and most famous ones. Let me start with something smaller, something you might almost miss if you weren't looking carefully. Imagine the edge of a forest. The light is golden and warm late in the day. The air smells of warm ferns and distant rain. And there, moving through the undergrowth near the base of a large cycad, something small, about the size of a turkey, maybe a little larger. Moving quickly, whilst on two legs, its head low and alert, its eyes bright. This is a small theropod dinosaur, a meat-eater, one of many small predators that moved through the Jurassic forests, hunting insects, small lizards, perhaps small mammals, because yes, there were already small mammals in the Jurassic. We often forget that. We think of the dinosaurs as taking over the whole world, leaving no room for anything else. But mammals existed all through the age of dinosaurs. They were just small, mostly nocturnal, mostly the size of mice or shrews. They scurried through the dark, they lived in burrows and leaf litter. They watched the dinosaurs from the shadows. They were waiting. Quietly, patiently, without knowing it, they were waiting for their moment. But in the Jurassic, their moment had not come yet. In the Jurassic, the dinosaurs ruled. And what a variety they were. Let me take you to the open plains now. Come out of the forest edge and step into a wide, fern-covered lowland. It is morning. The air is cool, well, cooler than midday. A light mist hangs over the ground, drifting slowly in long, wispy threads. And in the distance, movement, something large. Many things large, moving slowly, their enormous necks swinging gently from side to side as they walk. These are the sauropods, and they are among the most extraordinary creatures that have ever walked the earth. Sauropods, the long-necked giants. If you have ever seen a picture of a brachiosaurus, or a diplodocus, or an apatosaurus, you have seen a sauropod. But no picture, no matter how good, can quite prepare you for the idea of them in real life. The largest sauropods could reach lengths of over 30 meters. That's nearly 100 feet from nose to tail. Their necks alone could be 10 or 12 meters long. Their legs were like pillars, wide and strong. Their feet were round and padded like the feet of an elephant, but much, much larger. They moved slowly, deliberately, with the quiet confidence of something that has almost nothing to fear. Imagine standing near one, not right beside it. Let's keep a respectful distance. Let's stand perhaps 50 meters away, at the edge of the fern field, and just watch. The sound first. A deep, low sound. Almost like distant thunder, or the rumble of a large engine felt more in the chest than heard with the ears. That is its footsteps. Each step presses deeply into the soft earth. Each step leaves a wide, round impression in the mud at the edge of the nearby stream. And then the sheer size of it, the neck rising slowly, so slowly, to reach the high branches of a tall conifer, the head, surprisingly small compared to the body, moving with delicate precision, choosing a cluster of branches, pulling them gently into the wide, flat teeth. These animals were built to eat enormous amounts of vegetation. Scientists estimate that a large sauropod might have needed to eat hundreds of pounds of plant material every single day just to maintain its enormous body. They were, in a way, living machines designed to convert the green abundance of the Jurassic world into body mass. And there were many kinds of them. Diplodocus was long and low, with a very long, whip-like tail that it may have been able to crack like a bullwhip, creating a sonic boom sound as a display or defense. Can you imagine that? 100-foot dinosaur cracking its tail and sending a sound wave booming across a Jurassic plain. Brachiosaurus was tall and upright, more like a giraffe in proportion, its front legs longer than its back legs, so its body angled up toward that long neck. It would have browsed from the very tops of tall trees. Apatosaurus, once known as Brontosaurus, a name that many people still use and love, was massive and heavily built with a broad body and thick neck. It moved in herds, perhaps, or perhaps in smaller family groups. We are still learning. There were dozens of sauropod species across the Jurassic world in different sizes and shapes, spread across the different land masses as Pangaea continued to slowly separate. And here is something that fills me with a quiet kind of awe. We know about these animals from their bones, from fossils, the stone impressions left behind after millions of years of pressure and time turned their remains to rock. We know their size, their shape, their weight, the structure of their teeth, the way their vertebrae were designed to lighten the load of that enormous neck. But there is so much we don't know. We don't know what colour they were. We have guesses based on what we know about how colours function in animals, but no confirmed answers for the giant sauropods. Maybe they were grey, like an elephant. Maybe they had patches of colour. Maybe in some species the males were brighter than the females. We simply don't know. We don't know exactly how they sounded. We can make guesses based on the shape of their skulls and their likely hearing range, but we have never heard a sauropod call. No recording exists. No one alive has ever heard that sound. It is gone. That sound existed for millions of years and now it is gone. Like a word in a language no one speaks anymore. There is something beautiful and a little melancholy in that, I think. But not a sad melancholy. A soft one. A peaceful one. The kind that comes with understanding that all things, even enormous and wonderful things, have their time, and then they rest. Now, gently, let us acknowledge the predators, because in the Jurassic world, life was not only peaceful browsing and warm plains. There were hunters, there were teeth and claws and quick movements through the undergrowth. But tonight, I want to present them not with fear or drama. I want to show them to you as they really were. Extraordinary animals doing what animals do, living, hunting, raising young, moving through the world. The most famous Jurassic predator is probably Allosaurus. Allosaurus was large, about 10 to 12 meters long, maybe 35 to 40 feet. It walked on two powerful back legs, with short front arms ending in strong curved claws. Its skull was large, its jaws were lined with serrated teeth. Its eyes sat forward on its face, giving it reasonable depth perception for judging distance to prey. Scientists believe Allosaurus may have hunted alone, or perhaps cooperated with others of its kind in loose, informal groups. Not quite a pack in the wolf sense, but perhaps sharing feeding opportunities when they arose. Imagine Allosaurus on a morning hunt, moving through the edge of a forest, its heavy footsteps muffled by the soft carpet of ferns. It pauses, its nostrils flare. It can smell something large and slow, nearby. It moves carefully, Not fast yet, patient, conserving energy, reading the air, the light, the sounds, and then a burst of speed, a short, explosive run. Not a long chase. Allosaurus probably could not sustain high speeds for long distances, but over a short burst it was fast enough. We find fossil bones from this time with Allosaurus tooth marks on sauropod bones, which means these enormous predators were targeting enormous prey. The mechanics of how exactly Allosaurus hunted such huge animals is still debated by scientists. Perhaps it used its jaws like a hatchet, and delivering slashing blows rather than gripping bites. Perhaps it targeted the young, the sick, the injured. Life was not easy, even for an apex predator in the Jurassic. But here, now, let us soften this image. After the hunt, after the meal, Allosaurus rests, in the shade of a cluster of tall ferns, in the heat of the Jurassic afternoon, its belly full, its breathing slow, its eyes half closed. Even the predator rests, even the hunter sleeps, just like you. Let your mind drift upward now, up above the fern meadows and the tall conifers, up above the browsing sauropods and the quiet forests, into the warm, thick air of the Jurassic sky. What would you see? You would see flying creatures, but not birds, not quite, or rather, not only birds. The most iconic flyers of the Jurassic were the pterosaurs. Pterosaurs were not dinosaurs. They were a separate group of flying reptiles, closely related to dinosaurs but distinct. They had wings made of a thin membrane of skin and muscle, stretching from their enormously elongated fourth finger all the way down to their body and legs. Some Jurassic pterosaurs were small, the size of a crow or a seagull. Others were much larger. And by the time we reached the end of the Jurassic and into the following period, some pterosaurs would grow to absolutely extraordinary sizes. But in the Jurassic itself, most were moderate in size. They flew on warm air currents over the Jurassic seas, swooping down to snatch fish from just below the surface. They soared over coastal cliffs. They rested on rocky outcroppings, folding their great wings like living tents. And alongside them, a creature that links the ancient reptile world to the world of birds as we know them today. Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx is one of the most famous fossils ever discovered. Found in Germany in the late 1800s, it immediately caused a sensation because it showed clearly something that was, at the time, astonishing. A creature that was part dinosaur and part bird. It had feathers, real feathers, beautifully preserved in the limestone rock where it died. It had wings. It could probably fly, or at least glide. But it also had teeth, real teeth, in its beak-like jaws, and claws on its wings, and a long, bony tail. It was a bridge, a living bridge between two worlds. When Archaeopteryx flew through the Jurassic sky, probably gliding between tall trees, hunting insects perhaps, it did not know it was a bridge. It was just living, just breathing, just moving through the warm Jurassic air the way every creature does. It didn't know that millions of years later, something like it would become every bird that has ever sung a morning song outside a bedroom window, every chirping bird you have ever heard at dawn, every robin, every sparrow, every tiny wren, carries something of the Jurassic in its feathers. The world echoes itself forward, quietly, in forms we don't always recognize. Now let us descend, below the surface, into the warm, shallow Jurassic seas. Imagine sinking slowly into blue-green water. The light bends and shimmers above you. The water is warm, not hot but warm like a comfortable bath, and around you, life. The Jurassic oceans were extraordinary. We sometimes focus so much on what lived on land that we forget. The sea was where life first evolved, and in the Jurassic the seas were full, rich, complex, and teeming. There were enormous marine reptiles called ichthyosaurs, They looked, remarkably, like dolphins, similar in shape and movement, though not related to dolphins in any way. Evolution had simply found the same solution twice, across hundreds of millions of years. The streamlined torpedo body shape is excellent for fast movement through water. Ichthyosaurs were swift, graceful swimmers. Some were small, some were enormous. They breathed air like dolphins do, surfacing from time to gulp the warm Jurassic atmosphere. There were also plesiosaurs, long-necked sea creatures with broad, flat bodies and 4 large flippers. They moved through the water in a way that scientists compare to flying, not waving their flippers back and forth like tails, but sweeping them up and down like wings through water. They were not fast in a straight line, but they were maneuverable, elegant, almost bird-like in their movement, but beneath the waves. And there were marine crocodiles, ancient early crocodilians that had adapted to ocean life, with streamlined bodies and tail fins. They hunted fish and squid in the warm Jurassic shallows. The oceans were also full of ammonites, spiral-shelled creatures related to modern nautiluses that floated and swam in enormous numbers through the Jurassic seas. Their shells came in hundreds of species, some small as a coin, some as large as a car tyre. They were so abundant that their fossils are found all over the world today, in mountain ranges that were once ancient seabeds, in rock formations in England, in Morocco, in Argentina, in the American West. When you find an ammonite fossil, and they're among the most commonly available fossils, you can buy them in gift shops and natural history stores. You're holding something that swam in a Jurassic sea, something that breathed and moved and lived in that ancient warm water. Hold it gently if you ever do. It deserves that. Let us stay in this ancient world as the day fades, because the Jurassic had nights too, and I want you to experience one. The sun, the same sun that rose this morning over wherever you are now, began to lower in the Jurassic sky. Its light shifted from the white brightness of midday to the softer gold of late afternoon. Long shadows stretched across the fern fields. The air cooled just slightly. A breeze moved through the tall conifers, making them sigh. The large sauropods, who'd been browsing all day, began to slow. Some moved toward the edges of the forest, toward water, toward rest. A family group, perhaps 3 or 4 adults and a younger individual, moved in close formation, their footsteps quieter now, slower. In the undergrowth, the small mammals began to stir. Remember them, the small, furry, quiet ones, the ones waiting patiently in the shadows. At night, in the darkness, they came out, climbing through branches, sniffing the air, hunting insects, eating seeds and ferns and small invertebrates, moving quickly and quietly, yet avoiding anything larger. The night belonged to them, in a way. The darkness was their protection, and in the sky, as the last light of the Jurassic sun faded, the stars appeared. The same stars, almost exactly the same stars you would see tonight if you stepped outside and looked up. The constellations we know, Orion, the Big Dipper, the Southern Cross, would look nearly identical in the Jurassic sky. Stars are so impossibly far away that they barely move, even across millions of years. The sky above a Jurassic plain and the sky above your home tonight are almost same sky. Think about that. The same stars looked down on Allosaurus resting in the fern field. The same stars reflected in the warm Jurassic sea where the plesiosaurs dove and surfaced. The same stars the small mammals saw from the high branches where they hid at night, their tiny hearts beating fast. And those same stars are outside your window right now. You are not separate from that ancient world. You are continuous with it. I want to pause here and talk about time, not in a scientific way, just in a quiet human way. We use numbers to describe deep time. 150 million years, 50 million years, 200 million. But these numbers don't really land in our bodies the way they should. They're too large. Our brains weren't built to feel a million years. We can barely feel a decade. So let me try something different. Imagine a single grain of sand. Now imagine a whole beach. Long, wide, covered in sand as far as you can see in either direction. If all of human history will stem from our earliest ancestors making stone tools, all the way to tonight, to this moment, to you listening to this voice. If all of that were one single grain of sand, the Jurassic Period would be a large handful, a big, generous handful of sand, and the full history of the Earth, that would be the whole beach, and the ocean beyond it, and more beaches beyond that. We are very new here, very, very new, and yet, here we are, aware of it all, able to look back through time, through fossils and rock layers and ancient light, and see what was here before, able to feel wonder about it, able to lie in the dark and let the story of a world that ended 150 million years ago wash over us like a gentle wave. That is a remarkable thing to be. For a moment, just breathe. Let the numbers go. Let the facts rest somewhere soft in your mind. Just feel the long, long river of time and feel yourself floating on it, peacefully going wherever it carries you. Let us go back. One more time into the Jurassic. It is early morning now. The night has passed. The small mammals have retreated to their hiding places, tucked into hollow logs, nestled beneath thick fern roots. A few pterosaurs are already riding the first warm currents of air above the sea cliffs, their wingspans wide and steady. Walk with me into the forest. The light comes through the tall conifers in long slanted beams. Where the beams touch the ground, the ferns glow a brilliant pale green. The air is cool still, holding the memory of the night. Smells of damp earth and pine resin, and something ancient and green that has no modern name. A group of small ornithopod dinosaurs, two-legged plant eaters about the size of horses, moves along a forest path, grazing as they go. They are alert. Their heads come up frequently, eyes scanning, ears, if you can call them that, sensing for vibration. They move in a loose cluster, staying near each other. There is safety in numbers, even in the Jurassic. Their feet make a soft, regular sound on the fern-covered ground. A gentle rhythm, almost musical, like a very slow, very ancient drum. Ahead, a stream, clear, cold Jurassic water moving over rounded stones. A crocodilian rests on the bank, motionless, patient, eyes barely above the surface. It has been there since before dawn. It will be there long after noon. It is in no hurry. Crocodilians, like ginkgo trees, are survivors. The basic crocodilian body plan has existed for over 200 million years. The crocodile lying still in a river in Africa today is using the same basic strategy, the same basic body as its Jurassic ancestors, slow and patient, conserving energy, waiting. There is wisdom in that, maybe, in the quiet, practiced patience of something that has worked for 200 million years, in being still, in waiting, in not forcing anything, just existing fully in the moment. We have travelled far tonight. We've walked across the warm, wet plains of the Jurassic. We've stood in the shadow of enormous, gentle giants. We have felt the warm air of a world that existed 150 million years before tonight. We have watched the first faint hint of what would become birds glide through an ancient sky. We have sunk below the waves of a lost ocean and felt the warmth of a world without ice at the poles. And now the light is softening. The Jurassic afternoon is long and gold and slow. Somewhere in a grove of tall conifers, a sauropod is resting, standing still, because animals that large do not lie down easily, but resting. Its breathing slow and deep, its great heart beating in long, measured pulses. its eyes half closed against the golden light. The ferns around its feet are still. The air is warm. Everything is quiet. This is the Jurassic at rest. And you are here in this moment at rest too. Your breathing has slowed, maybe. Your body feels heavier, softer. The story has carried you a long way. If you are still awake, thank you for travelling with me. There is much more to come. In the next part of this journey, we will go deeper into the Jurassic world. We will meet more of its creatures. We will explore the slow process of fossilization, how those ancient bones became the stones we find today. We will talk about what the end of the Jurassic looked like and what came after. And we will find in all of that more quiet reflections about time and rest and the long, slow turning of the world. But for now, rest here. Let the Jurassic hold you gently. You're safe. The night is long. The story will be here when you wake. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. And so we continue. Before we step back into that ancient world, I want to tell you something about how we know any of this. Because that is a fair question, isn't it? The Jurassic ended roughly 145 million years ago. Every creature that lived then is gone. Every forest that grew then has long since turned to coal or dust. Every footprint, every sound, every breath of warm Jurassic air, all of it, gone. And yet, we know. Not everything, not perfectly. But we know enough to paint a picture. A quiet, rough-edged, beautiful picture of what that world was like. We know because of rocks. The Earth is a keeper of records. Slow, patient, and enormously detailed records. When a creature dies, if conditions are right, if the body settles into soft mud at the bottom of a lake, or is buried quickly by a sandstorm, or sinks into the sediment of a shallow sea, something remarkable can happen. Over thousands of years, the soft parts decay. The flesh, the organs, the skin, they go back into the earth. But the hard parts, the bones, the teeth, the shells, those can remain. And as more sediment piles on top, year after year, century after century, the weight and pressure and chemistry of the earth slowly changes those bones. Mineral-rich water seeps in. The original bone material is gradually replaced, molecule by stone. The shape remains, the detail remains. Sometimes, extraordinarily, even the texture of the original surface remains. And then the fossil waits. It waits in the dark, under the weight of the earth, for millions of years, while seas rise and fall above it, while glaciers advance and retreat, while continents drift, while evolution rewrites the story of life on the surface, it waits. And then, sometimes millions of years later, the rock above it erodes. Rain and wind and the slow work of water carve away the layers, and the fossil appears. Emerging slowly from the stone like something trying to be remembered, someone finds it, a scientist, a farmer, a child walking along a cliff edge, and the story, after 150 million years, begins to be told again. There is something profound in that, I think. The idea that nothing is fully lost, that the record of life is written into the stone of the earth itself, that every creature that ever lived left some trace, however faint, however incomplete, in the world it moved through. You too leave traces in the people you speak to, in the work you do, in the small, invisible impressions you leave on the world around you, every day. Nothing fully disappears. For a moment, just breathe. Let that sit gently with you. Let me walk you through it. The slow, patient process of how a living thing becomes a fossil. That is because there is something deeply meditative about it. something that asks us to think about time in a new way. Imagine a young sauropod, not one of the giants, a smaller one, perhaps 30 years old, which for a sauropod might still be considered young. It has lived its life on the wide Jurassic plains. It has browsed from tall trees and drunk from warm rivers and moved slowly through the great green world. And now, at the edge of a shallow lake, it has died. Perhaps from injury, perhaps from old age. Yes, even the giant ones aged and slowed and eventually stopped. Its body settles near the water's edge, half in the mud. In the days and weeks that follow, other animals come, scavengers, small ones first, insects, early relatives of beetles and flies moving through the soft tissue. Then larger ones, perhaps smaller theropod dinosaurs, opportunistic and cautious. The bones slowly are exposed. Now what happens next depends entirely on luck. If the bones are left on dry land, they will bleach and crack in the Jurassic sun. The elements will work on them. They will fragment and scatter and eventually dissolve back into the soil over centuries. No fossil will form. But if, and this is where the luck comes in, the seasonal rains come, if the shallow lake rises, if the mud and silt begin to cover the bones before they scatter and break, if slowly the bones sink into the soft, fine sediment at the edge of that ancient lake, then something different begins. The sediment protects them, covers them. Year by year, more sediment layers settle above. The bones are compressed, pressed down deeper into the earth. The chemistry of the water slowly works on the bone, replacing its original material with minerals from the rock around it. This process takes thousands of years, then tens of thousands of years, then millions, and in all that time above the fossil, the world is changing constantly. Other creatures live and die and become fossils of their own in other layers. The lake dries, a forest grows, the forest burns, a sea returns, the sea withdraws, mountains rise, glaciers come and go, and the fossil far below all of this rests, patient, silent, preserved. And then, one day, perhaps 150 million years after that young sauropod settled into the mud at the edge of a warm Jurassic lake, the rock around it erodes just enough. A fragment of ancient bone emerges from the cliff face, catching the light. Said, and a paleontologist hiking along a Badlands trail in what is now Wyoming or Montana or China looks down and sees and kneels and begins with small brushes and careful hands to uncover the past. I want to take a small, gentle detour here and talk about the people who find these things. Paleontologists, people who have dedicated their lives to reading the rock record, to uncovering and studying the fossils of ancient life. Imagine the patience required, the long, careful hours in the field, kneeling in the heat or the cold, brushing dust from bone fragments with tools the size of dental picks, mapping exactly where each piece lies before moving it, wrapping the fossils in plaster jackets to protect them for transport, then the long months in the laboratory, cleaning, identifying, comparing, reconstructing. It is slow work, a meticulous work, and it is driven entirely by curiosity, by the deep human hunger to know, to understand what came before, to hear the stories written in stone. There is something wonderful about that, about the fact that our species, which has only existed for a tiny fraction of Earth's history, has nevertheless developed the desire and the ability to look back, to reach into deep time and pull out pieces of ancient worlds and say, this was here, this lived, this mattered. It is one of the most human things we do, I think, the reaching back, the remembering, even of things that happened long before any human was alive to witness them. You have been listening for a while now. How are you feeling? If your eyes are heavy, let them be heavy. If your thoughts have become slow and soft and a little blurry at the edges, that is exactly right. That is your body and your mind doing what they are supposed to do at this hour. You do not need to hold on tightly to everything you have heard. Let it drift. Let the sauropods wander through the back of your mind. Let the warm Jurassic air settle around you like a blanket. Let the slow sound of that ancient world, the rustle of ferns, the distant call of a pterosaur over the sea, the deep, low rhythm of enormous feet on the earth, let those sounds become part of the background of your sleep. You are safe. The night is long and quiet, and there is still more story to come whenever you are ready for it. For now, just breathe. Let us go back to the ocean. Because there is more to discover there beneath the warm blue-green Jurassic waves. The Jurassic oceans were full of life at every level. There, near the surface, ammonites drifted and swam in enormous numbers. Their beautiful spiral shells, some ribbed, some smooth, some with intricate geometric patterns on their surface, came in hundreds of different species. They are among the most common fossils found today, because they were so abundant in life, and because their shells were built to last. Below the surface swimmers, the seafloor was covered with life too. Ancient corals built slow, quiet reefs. Sea lilies, crinoids, waved their feathery arms in the current, filtering food particles from the water. Bivalves, the ancient relatives of today's clams and mussels, settled into the soft sediment of the seafloor. And moving through all of this, the great marine reptiles. The ichthyosaurs, as we discussed, were fast and graceful, built like dolphins, living like dolphins. But reptiles through and through. They breathed air. They gave birth to live young. We know this from extraordinary fossils that have been found showing an ichthyosaur female with young ones preserved inside her body in the act of being born. A moment frozen in stone, 150 million years later. Can you imagine? A moment of birth, of new life beginning, preserved and then found millions of years later by a human who would never have been born if that ancient creature had not lived and reproduced. Everything is connected. The threads run in every direction through time. The plesiosaurs move through the Jurassic seas with their slow, winging strokes. They hunted fish, squid, and perhaps even ammonites. Some species had short necks and enormous heads, powerful, fast hunters. Others had very long, flexible necks and smaller heads, more patient, slower hunters, perhaps ambushing prey from below. And beneath all of them, in the deep parts of the Jurassic Sea, where the light from above fades to darkness, what was there? We are less sure. Deep-sea preservation is rare in the fossil record. The conditions for fossilization in the deep ocean are difficult. The sediment is fine, but the pressure and chemistry are different, and organic material tends to be recycled quickly by the deep-sea ecosystem. But life was there. Life has been in the deep sea for hundreds of millions of years. Quiet, cold, slow life in the darkness below. Creatures we may never know, living and dying in the dark, leaving no record. There is something peaceful about that in a strange way. The idea of life going on quietly in the dark, leaving no trace, i.e. just existing, just being, without needing to be known or recorded or remembered. I want to sit with something for a moment, something quiet and a little philosophical. The dinosaurs, all those extraordinary creatures of the Jurassic, did not know they were living in the Jurassic. They did not know they were on a planet called Earth. They did not know that the land beneath their feet was moving slowly across the surface of a cooling planet orbiting an ordinary star. They did not know about fossils. They did not know that one day their bones would become stone and be found by another kind of creature entirely. They did not know about us. They just lived. They woke in the Jurassic morning and did what their bodies told them to do. They ate, they moved, they rested, they sought water and shade and safety, and they raised their young, they slept. They experienced the Jurassic world directly, fully, without any of the thinking about it that we humans do. In some ways, in some very particular ways, that sounds almost restful. We are a thinking species. We carry the past and the future with us everywhere we go. We worry about things that haven't happened. We replay things that are already over. We plan and predict and remember and fear. The Jurassic sauropod, browsing from a tall conifer, was just browsing, just there, just present in that warm green moment. Maybe in sleep we get a little closer to that. Maybe in sleep we let go of the past and the future for a while and simply exist, breathing, warm, still, like an enormous gentle creature resting in a Jurassic afternoon. Maybe that is part of why sleep feels so good. The thinking part of us gets to rest, and we just exist. For a moment, just breathe. Feel how your body simply is right now, without needing to be anywhere else. Let us talk about the young ones, because the Jurassic world was full of youth and new life, not just the ancient and enormous. Most dinosaurs laid eggs. We know this from fossil evidence. Preserved nests, sometimes with eggs still in them, occasionally with tiny embryos inside the eggs, perfectly preserved by the same slow miracle of fossilization. Imagine a Jurassic nesting ground, a wide open area of sandy ground not far from a forest edge, warm and dry. The sun heats the sand to just the right temperature, and here, in shallow, scraped-out depressions in the ground, a group of sauropods, or perhaps ornithopods, has laid their eggs. The eggs are round and smooth, like large stones. Some sauropod eggs could be the size of volleyballs or larger. They are warm from the sun above and from the sand below. Inside each one, a small creature is growing, curled and soft and still in its liquid world, knowing nothing yet of ferns or conifers or wide Jurassic skies. Some dinosaurs may have guarded their nests. There is fossil evidence suggesting that certain species stayed near their eggs, protecting them. We find fossils of adult dinosaurs preserved in postures that suggest they were sitting on or near a nest when they died. Parental care in ancient dinosaurs, 150 million years before anyone thought to call it that. Life has always tried to protect its young. It has always tried to give the next generation a chance. That instinct, that deep, a fundamental push toward care and protection, it did not begin with humans. It goes back much, much further, into deep time, into the Jurassic and beyond, and eventually through the long chain of generations and evolution and time, that same instinct lives in us. When someone tucks a child in at night, when someone speaks softly in the dark, when someone says, "You are safe, rest now." That is a very old thing, a Jurassic old thing, at least. Let me paint you a soundscape. Because when we think about ancient worlds, we often imagine them as silent, as if fossils and stone carry no sound, therefore the world itself was quiet. But it was not. The Jurassic world was full of sound. Wind through the tall conifers, that long, low, breathing sound that tall trees make when the air moves through their branches. Always sound that you can still hear today in any pine forest on any quiet afternoon. Close your eyes in a pine forest and listen, and you're hearing something the Jurassic heard too. Water. The sound of Jurassic streams and rivers moving over stone. The sound of the warm rain on broad fern fronds. That soft, irregular percussion that rain makes on leaves. Rain in the Jurassic fell into silence, in the sense that no human ear was there to hear it. But it fell and it sounded, and the world absorbed it. Insects. The Jurassic was full of insects. We know this from fossils. Insects preserved in ancient amber, in fine-grained stone, sometimes in extraordinary detail. Beetles, dragonflies, early relatives of crickets and grasshoppers. And if there were insects related to crickets, then perhaps there was something like the sound of chirping in the Jurassic night. A soft, rhythmic insect sound, rising and falling as the warm Jurassic evening deepened. The dinosaurs themselves made sounds. We are fairly certain of this, though the exact sounds are impossible to know. Large animals almost always use sound for communication, to find mates, to warn of danger, to keep groups together. Some scientists have tried to reconstruct possible sounds based on the shape of dinosaur skulls and nasal passages. Some sauropods may have had resonating chambers in their crests or skulls that could produce low, deep calls. Imagine a low, resonant call drifting across a wide Jurassic plain as the afternoon fades. Not loud, not sharp, deep and slow, a vibration more felt than heard. Yet a communication in frequencies too low for most ears to catch easily. And the pterosaurs, soaring above the sea cliffs. Perhaps they made sounds too. Calls to each other across the warm updrafts. Cries when landing on rocky outcroppings, greeting their kind. A world full of sound. Always, always full of sound. And underneath it all, the deep, almost inaudible sound of the earth itself. The slow creaking of tectonic plates. The rumble of distant volcanic activity. The Jurassic was a period of significant volcanic events. The slow pulling apart of Pangaea was accompanied by volcanic rifts, new ocean floors forming, magma rising from the deep earth. The world speaks, if you listen slowly enough. Let us talk for a moment about what was happening deep beneath the surface of the Jurassic world. Because while the sauropods browsed and the pterosaurs soared and the ammonites drifted through warm seas, below all of that, the Earth's interior was doing its own enormous, slow work. The breaking apart of Pangaea was not a gentle process, though it happened too slowly for any surface creature to perceive. It was driven by convection currents deep in the Earth's mantle, vast, slow-moving currents of hot rock, moving over millions of years like the world's slowest boiling pot. Where the continents were pulling apart, new oceanic crust was being created. Magma welled up from below, cooled, and formed new rock at the bottom of new seas. The Atlantic Ocean, as we know it today, was in its infancy during the Jurassic, a narrow seaway just beginning to widen. North America and Europe were still not far apart, because South America and Africa were beginning to separate. And on the surface, along ancient volcanic rifts, there were eruptions. Slow, long-duration volcanic events, not the dramatic sudden explosions of a single volcano, but vast outpourings of lava over millions of years, covering enormous areas in new rock. Some of the most remarkable geological formations in the world today are remnants of Jurassic volcanic activity. The long, flat basalt fields of certain regions, the ancient ocean floor rocks now thrust up into mountains by later tectonic collisions. The Earth was restless in the Jurassic, but its restlessness was slow, measured in millions of years, utterly imperceptible to anything alive on its surface. We live on a restless planet. We always have. It just moves on a time scale that asks us to let go of urgency. What a lesson. Embedded in the stone, there is no rush. Even the most enormous forces in the world move slowly. Change happens, yes, always, but rarely as quickly as we fear. Things will shift, things will rearrange, new shapes will form, old shapes will be lost, but slowly, slowly. For a moment, just breathe. Let us take one final long walk tonight. It is the late Jurassic now, perhaps 150 million years ago, near the end of this great period. The world has been changing slowly. The continents have drifted a little further apart. The Tethys Sea has widened. New islands have appeared as the continental shelves shift and shallow seas flood low-lying land. The forests are rich and full. This is perhaps the peak of sauropod diversity. More species of long-necked giants than at any other time in the Jurassic. They move across the landscape in what must have been one of the most extraordinary sights in Earth's history. Herds of animals that dwarf anything alive today, moving across wide green plains. Walk with me through a late Jurassic afternoon. The air is warm and thick with humidity. The ground beneath your feet is soft, a layer of fallen fern fronds and decomposing organic material that cushions every step. The smell is rich, living, a deep, green, earthy smell that has no equivalent in the modern world. Through the trees, you can hear the slow movement of something large, the deep rhythmic compression of the earth as something heavy passes, the rustle of high branches far above you where something is feeding. A Brachiosaurus family moves through the forest ahead, 3 adults and 2 smaller ones, subadults, perhaps already 15 or 20 feet long, but dwarfed by the adults beside them. They move in a loose cluster, not hurried. The adults occasionally pause to pull at the high branches of conifers. The younger ones browse at a lower level, cycad fronds, tall ferns. One of the adults turns its long neck slowly. Its eye, large, round, dark, looks in your direction for a moment. Not alarmed, not aggressive, just looking, registering. Then turning away, back to the branches. You're no threat to it. You are, in the Jurassic, something it has probably never had reason to fear. You walk on. A stream crosses the path ahead. Clear water over smooth stones. You pause here and listen. The water speaks in its old language. The same sound it made in the Jurassic. The same sound it makes tonight in every stream in the world. But the sound of water over stone does not change. It has not changed in billions of years. Sit here for a moment by this Jurassic stream. Let the sound of the water settle around you. Small things move in the water. Fish, ancient fish, some of whose descendants still swim in rivers today. The water is warm and clear. The stones on the bottom are smooth and various. White, grey, rust red. A dragonfly lands on a fern frond near the water. Large by today's standards, the Jurassic dragonflies could grow quite large, as insects sometimes do in warm, oxygen-rich environments. Its wings are transparent and perfect, catching the light in a shimmer of thin colour. It stays for a moment, then is gone. The Jurassic did not end violently. Not immediately, not the way the later extinction, the one that ended the non-bird dinosaurs did. So the Jurassic ended gradually, as geological periods often do, marked not by a single dramatic event but by a slow shift. Changes in climate, changes in sea level, a period of increased volcanic activity that altered the atmosphere and ocean chemistry. Many species were affected, some disappeared, but the world rolled on. What came next was the Cretaceous, another magnificent period of life, lasting roughly 79 million years. The dinosaurs continued to evolve and diversify. Flowering plants finally appeared and spread across the world. New kinds of birds evolved from their theropod dinosaur ancestors. The mammals continued to wait, patient in their small furry bodies, in their burrows and tree branches. And then, 66 million years ago, the famous end, the asteroid impact. The mass extinction that ended the non-bird dinosaurs and a majority of species on Earth. But that is a story for another night. Tonight, we're in the Jurassic. We're not thinking about endings. We're thinking about the fullness of a world in its prime. A world teeming with life in forms we can barely imagine. A world that lasted 50 million years. 50 million years in a steady green breathing abundance. That is worth sitting with. That abundance, that fullness, that sense of a world that was working exactly as it was meant to work. Life succeeding, life thriving, life finding every available space and filling it with something living and breathing and wonderful. It is late now in the Jurassic. And late for you too, wherever you are. The Jurassic sky has darkened. The last colours of sunset, as whatever colours the Jurassic sun made as it lowered behind the ancient horizon, have faded. The stars are appearing, and they are the same stars. I keep coming back to this because I find it so deeply comforting. The stars you could see from a Jurassic plane are very nearly the stars you could see from your window tonight. Orion rising in the east, the slow wheel of the night sky turning overhead, the faint smear of the Milky Way crossing from horizon to horizon. Those stars were there, shining down on the sauropods, on the small nocturnal mammals in their burrows, on the quiet pterosaurs roosting on cliff ledges, wings folded, heads tucked, and they are shining now, on you, on everyone sleeping in every time zone tonight, on every city and every forest and every ocean on this slowly turning world. The stars are patient. They do not rush. They do not change from our perspective. Not in a human lifetime, not even in many human lifetimes. They simply remain, shining, quiet, there. There is comfort in constancy, in the things that remain while everything else changes. The stars remain through the Jurassic, through the extinction, through the long ice ages, through the slow rise of mammals and the slow appearance of humans, through every civilization and every dark age and every moment of history, still shining, still there, and you, here, tonight, in this moment, you are also still here, still breathing, still present, still part of this long, impossible, beautiful story. I want to tell you one more thing before this part of our journey comes to rest. When paleontologists find a fossil, when they kneel in the dust or the clay or the rock face and begin to carefully uncover what is there, they are doing something that I think is one of the most purely human acts possible. They are reading. The rocks are a book, written in a language that takes years to learn, but a book nonetheless, full of stories, full of creatures and events and ecosystems and moments of life and death and change. Every fossil is a sentence in that book, sometimes a long sentence, a complete skeleton preserved in remarkable detail telling us so much, sometimes just a fragment, a single tooth, a single claw, a piece of bone, a word, or even just a letter in the long story. And we read it. We piece it together. We sit in quiet laboratories and museums holding pieces of stone that were once living bone, and we try to understand. What was this creature? How did it move? What did it eat? Did it live alone or in groups? Was it warm-blooded or cold? How did it raise its young? What sounds did it make? We will never fully know. The record is incomplete. Too much time has passed. Too much has been lost. But what we do know is remarkable. And what we imagine, carefully, thoughtfully, based on evidence, fills in the spaces with something that feels true. That feels right. That feels like it honours the reality of what once was. The Jurassic world was real. These creatures lived. Their hearts beat. Their lungs breathed the warm ancient air. Their eyes saw the same sun we see today. Their young were born and grew, and the world continued. They were real. And in some quiet way, through the stone, through the patient work of scientists, through stories like this one told in the dark, and they continue. The Jurassic afternoon has become evening. The sauropods are still. The small mammals are beginning to stir in their secret places. The pterosaurs have settled on their night roosts, wings folded, eyes closed. The ferns are dark now, their fronds indistinguishable from shadow. The great conifers are silhouettes against a darkening sky. A single bright star has appeared in the west, the first of the night, and the world breathes, in and out, slowly, the way it has always breathed. You breathe with it, in and out. You have travelled a long way tonight, 150 million years, through forests that no longer exist, over seas that have since become mountains, under stars that are still shining. You have walked beside the largest animals that ever walked the earth. You have felt the warm, humid air of a world without ice caps or skyscrapers or roads. You have heard, in your imagination, the low, distant call of creatures whose voices are lost forever. And you are still here, still breathing, still soft in the dark. In part 3, if you choose to continue this journey another night, or later in this same long night, we will go even deeper. We will talk about the very end of the Jurassic and the slow transition into the Cretaceous. We will meet some creatures we haven't visited yet. We will talk about colour and what the Jurassic may have looked like in ways we are only now beginning to understand. We will explore what the early birds were doing in the trees. And we will spend time with the idea of extinction, not as a tragedy but as a turning point, a doorway, a moment when the world said, something new, now. But that is for later. For now, this is enough. You have done beautifully, just listening, just breathing, just being here. The Jurassic world rests tonight, as it has rested for 145 million years. Deep in the stone, deep in the quiet record of the earth, and you rest too, safe, warm, held by the long, patient story of a world that has been turning for 4.5 billion years. It will keep turning tonight while you sleep. You don't need to watch it. You don't need to hold it. It knows what to do. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Take one slow breath. Let it out slowly. Good. Tonight we go deeper. We have already walked across the wide Jurassic plains. We have stood in the shadow of giants. We have sunk below the surface of ancient seas and watched the stars come out over a world that existed 150 million years ago. And we're not moving fast tonight. We never are. I want to start tonight with something that scientists have only recently begun to explore. Something that, when I first learned about it, made me stop and feel a quiet kind of wonder. Colour. What colour was the Jurassic world? Now you might think, well, we can't know that. Fossils are stone. Stone is grey or brown or rust. Surely the colour of ancient life is lost forever. And for a long time, that is what most people assumed. But then something remarkable happened. Scientists discovered that certain fossils, particularly those of feathered dinosaurs and early birds, preserved in very fine-grained rock under exceptional conditions, sometimes preserve not just the shape of the feathers, but the microscopic structures inside them. Structures called melanosomes. Melanosomes are tiny, tiny capsules inside feather cells and skin cells that contain pigment, the biological machinery of colour. And crucially, different types of melanosomes produce different colours. Round ones tend to produce reddish-brown tones. Elongated, sausage-shaped ones tend to produce darker, blacker colours. By examining these preserved melanosomes under powerful microscopes, scientists have been able to, in some cases, reconstruct the probable colour of ancient feathered creatures. And what did they find? Reds, blacks, rusty oranges, iridescent blacks that would have shimmered like a raven's wing in the Jurassic sunlight. Some small feathered dinosaurs may have been strikingly beautiful, patterned, colourful, like exotic birds, but with clawed wings and toothed beaks. Imagine that! The Jurassic was not grey and dull. It was not the washed-out, sepia-toned world that old illustrations suggested. It was alive with colour. The feathered creatures moved through the green forests in flashes of rust and black and deep orange. The scales of larger dinosaurs may have been patterned too. We're still learning, still looking, still finding new clues in the stone. The world was beautiful, in a way we're only just now beginning to see. And here is what I find most moving about this. That beauty existed whether or not anything was there to see it. Those colours evolved for purposes: communication, camouflage, attracting mates. They had biological functions, but they were also simply beautiful in the way that a sunset is beautiful, or the way a hummingbird's throat catches the light. The Jurassic world was full of beauty that no human eye ever saw. Beauty that existed for its own purposes, in its own time, and then was gone. Beauty doesn't require an audience, it doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. That is a quietly profound thing. We have spent a lot of time with the giants, the sauropods, the predators, the great marine reptiles, and they deserve that time. They are extraordinary. But tonight I want to walk you through the Jurassic world at a smaller scale. I want to show you what you would see if you stopped and looked down. Say, if you knelt in the warm Jurassic undergrowth and paid attention to the small things. Because the Jurassic was not just a world of giants, it was a world teeming with small life. Imagine kneeling in a patch of Jurassic ferns. The fronds around you are cool and green, filtering the light. The ground beneath your knees is soft, damp, alive, rich with the smell of decomposing plant material. And everywhere you look, small things moving. Beetles. The Jurassic had beetles, many kinds. Beetles are extraordinary survivors. They are the most species-rich order of animals alive today, and they have been around since before the dinosaurs. In the Jurassic, they crawled through the leaf litter, under bark, inside rotting wood. Some ate plant material, some were predators of even smaller creatures, some were scavengers, cleaning up what the larger animals left behind. Beetles going about their beetle business, 150 million years ago. Flies. The ancestors of modern flies buzzed through the warm Jurassic air. They fed on decaying organic matter. They were food for the small theropods and the early feathered creatures that hunted them. Early bees may not have existed yet. Bees co-evolved with flowers, and flowers were only just beginning to appear. But there were other pollinators, some flies, some beetles, perhaps some early insects we don't have perfect names for, all moving from cycad cone to cycad cone, from one ancient plant to another, carrying pollen. Life finding its connections, life weaving its webs of relationship long before any word for ecology existed, and in the soil itself, worms, nematodes, tiny creatures too small to see with the naked eye, moving through the earth, breaking down organic material, cycling nutrients back into the ground. The invisible infrastructure of the Jurassic world. Nothing wasted, everything cycling, everything connected. The ancient world ran on the same principles as the modern one. The details differed. The species were different. The specific organisms were unique to their time. But the principles, eat and be eaten, cycle and recycle, grow and decompose and grow again, those are as old as life itself. Now let us spend a little more time with those small, quiet, furry ones, the early mammals of the Jurassic. They were not impressive by Jurassic standards. The largest Jurassic mammals were probably about the size of a domestic cat. Most were much smaller, shrew-sized, mouse-sized, moving through the Jurassic world like shadows, careful, alert, fast. They lived primarily at night. This is the prevailing theory, that early mammals were pushed into nocturnal lifestyles by the dominance of the dinosaurs during the day, and this nocturnal adaptation changed them profoundly. Night animals need good hearing. They need good smell. They need to process information quickly and quietly. So early mammals developed these senses to an extraordinary degree. Large ears, sensitive to a wide range of frequencies, highly developed noses, capable of detecting faint chemical signals from great distances. And, here is the fascinating part, their brains changed too. The part of the mammal brain devoted to processing smell and sound and then eventually complex thought, it expanded. Mammal brains, compared to reptile brains of similar size, were already significantly more complex by the Jurassic, already developing in the direction of the extraordinary complexity that would, much later, produce the brain that is listening to this story tonight. All because of the darkness, all because of the long, patient nocturnal waiting in the shadows of the Jurassic. Adversity shapes things. Difficulty creates new capabilities. The things that push us to the margins, to the dark, to the quiet waiting. They can make us into something we couldn't have become in the comfortable light. That is not a comfortable thought exactly, but it is a true one, and maybe, at this hour of the night, lying in the dark, it lands a little differently. The darkness is not empty, it is generative. Something is always growing in the dark. You have been listening for a long time now, and I'm grateful for your company on this journey. But let me remind you, you are allowed to let go. You do not need to follow every sentence. You do not need to remember every fact. This story is not building to a test or a conclusion that requires you to have been awake for all of it. It is just a journey, a slow walk through an ancient world. And if you drift, you drift. If you sleep, you sleep. If you're somewhere between the two right now, that soft, warm half place where thoughts become gentle and the edges of the world get a little blurry, then you are exactly where you should be. Let your body be heavy, let your thoughts slow down. Let the Jurassic world drift around you like a warm, green fog. You are safe, you are resting, that is enough. I want to talk about stillness for a moment, because the Jurassic world, despite all its life and movement and activity, was also a world of profound stillness. And I think we sometimes miss that. Think of the giant conifers, standing still for hundreds of years, putting on one tiny ring of growth each year, not rushing, not straining, just receiving the sunlight and the rain and the minerals in the soil, and slowly, in their own time, becoming enormous. The oldest living trees on Earth today, the bristlecone pines, some of them over 5,000 years old, grow in harsh, high-altitude environments where conditions are difficult and resources are scarce. And because of that difficulty, they grow very, very slowly, and that slowness is precisely what preserves them. They are dense and hard and resistant to everything the world throws at them. The slow ones survive. In the Jurassic, the big conifers stood for centuries in the same spot, season after season, generation of dinosaurs after generation. They watched, if trees can be said to watch, the world change around them, while they simply grew. Stillness as strategy, patience as survival. There is something in that for us, I think. In this world of speed and noise and constant motion, the quiet, still thing often endures longest. The thing that does not chase, the thing that does not rush, the thing that stands in its place and grows slowly in its own time. Let us go back to the trees, into the high branches of a late Jurassic forest, where the light comes through in shifting, dappled patterns, and the air moves gently through the needles and fronds, and here, moving through the branches with a quick, nimble hop, something small, something with feathers. We have mentioned Archaeopteryx, but by the late Jurassic, there were other feathered dinosaurs too. A whole ecosystem of small feathered creatures beginning to explore what wings could do. Not all of them could fly. Some had feathers on their arms and bodies, but were primarily ground dwellers or tree climbers. Feathers in evolution did not begin as flight tools, they likely began as insulation, keeping small warm-blooded or near-warm-blooded creatures warm at night. And then perhaps some began to notice that a longer feather on an outstretched arm could help with gliding between branches, and then, very slowly over millions of years, gliding became flight. Or perhaps it went the other way. Perhaps flight began from the ground up, not the tree down. Perhaps small feathered dinosaurs flapped their arms as they ran, using the lift to jump higher and farther, and over time that became true flight. We are not entirely sure. Both theories have their supporters among scientists. What we do know is that somewhere in the Jurassic world, in the trees or on the ground or somewhere in between, the first true flight was happening, the first unfolding of wings and commitment to air, and that act, that first genuine flight, led, through millions of years of evolution, to every bird that has ever lived, every hawk riding a thermal, every albatross crossing an ocean without landing for weeks, every tiny hummingbird beating its wings 80 times per second, every dawn chorus of birdsong that has ever greeted a morning, all of it beginning here in the Jurassic, in a small feathered creature in a high branch, spreading its arms for the first time and finding that the air could hold it. Let that image settle gently in your mind, something spreading its arms and finding it was held. I want to speak to you directly for a moment. You, listening in the dark. You have been carrying your day with you, maybe a week, maybe longer. The weight of things that need doing, things that didn't go right, things you are hoping for and things you are afraid of. That weight does not go away entirely, even in the dark. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, it becomes more noticeable, not less. But here is something that the Jurassic teaches us, if we let it. In the span of deep time, all of our worries are extraordinarily, almost impossibly small. Not in a way that dismisses them, not in a way that says they don't matter. They do matter. To you, to the people around you, in the context of your life. Your concerns are real and valid, but in the span of 150 million years, in the span of the sauropods' long unhurried existence, in the span of the ginkgo tree's unchanged billions of years of growing, even our largest human dramas are brief and tiny. And there is a strange comfort in that. The world has survived so much. It has been through extinctions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic catastrophes that lasted millions of years. And each time, life returned. Each time, something found a way. Each time, the green came back and the creatures came back and the sky was full of moving things again. So the world is remarkably good at continuing, and so, almost certainly are you. Whatever you're carrying tonight, you have carried things before, and the world continued, and you continued with it. For a moment, just breathe. Let your worries be what they are. Small and temporary in the great river of time, let them float, let them drift. You don't have to solve anything tonight. Tonight, you just breathe. Let me paint you one last long, slow picture. It is a day in the late Jurassic. One specific day, though we cannot give it a date in any calendar we know. A day like millions of other Jurassic days, but this one, this particular one, we will watch to its end. The sun rose, as it always did, in the east. In the Jurassic, the sun rose in the same direction it rises today. The Earth rotated in the same direction, though slightly faster actually. Days in the Jurassic were fractionally shorter than our modern days, because the Earth's rotation has been slowing, very gradually, over billions of years due to the gravitational drag of the Moon. 23-hour days, perhaps, or thereabouts. The sun rose over a wide Jurassic coastal plain. Mist lay over the fern meadows and the low areas near the sea. The air smelled of salt and wet green things. Somewhere, far out over the shallow Tethys Sea, a group of pterosaurs was already riding the early morning thermals, their wingspans wide against the pale sky. A herd of small ornithopod dinosaurs, nimble, two-legged plant-eaters, was already moving through the fern meadows, grazing as they went. Alert, heads up frequently, eyes scanning, moving in that easy, yet flowing group movement that prey animals use, where no one individual is making the decisions but the group moves as one. Near the stream, a large Allosaurus was drinking, its head lowered to the water, its eyes still and watchful. Even the apex predator had to drink. Even the hunter had to lower its head, briefly, and be vulnerable. Life at every level in its morning routine. Through the long, warm Jurassic morning, things moved and fed and rested. A sauropod stood in the shadow of a tall grove of conifers, its neck extended into the high branches, its eyes distant and calm. The shadow moved slowly as the sun climbed higher. By midday, the heat was significant. Some animals rested. The crocodilians lay motionless on the muddy stream banks. Some of the smaller theropods sheltered in the deeper shade of the forest, but the sauropods, with their enormous bodies, continued to browse. Their size actually helped regulate their temperature, so large that they heated and cooled slowly, their internal temperature staying relatively stable through the heat of the day. The afternoon brought cloud, great white Jurassic clouds, building in from the sea, bringing the promise of rain. The air felt different. The pressure changed. Animals that had been resting began to stir. The rain came in the mid-afternoon. Not a violent storm, a steady, warm, tropical rain. It pattered on the broad fern fronds, trickled down the bark of the tall conifers, pooled in the low places, fed the streams. The smell of rain on hot stone and warm earth. A smell so fundamental, so ancient, that it triggers something deep in humans even today. The smell of petrichor, which is one of those rare words that captures something we all know but rarely name. The smell of rain on dry ground. That smell existed in the Jurassic. That same smell. Life drank the rain, plants absorbed it, the ground softened, and then the rain passed. And the late afternoon sun came through the breaking clouds in long golden beams. Everything was wet and lit and glowing. The pterosaurs were back in the air, riding the warm, humid currents over the coast. Near the forest, a pair of small, feathered dinosaurs moved through the undergrowth, their feathers catching the golden light for a moment, a flash of russet and dark green, and then gone, back into the shadow. And the day wound slowly down. The gold deepened to orange. The shadow stretched long across the fern meadows. The air cooled just slightly. The sounds changed. The insects that had been quiet in the heat began to wake up, producing that soft rhythmic background sound that warm evenings carry everywhere in the world. One by one, the larger animals slowed, settled, chose their night places. The sauropods gathered near a stand of large conifers, standing because lying down for something that large is difficult and effortful, but still. Their heads lowered, their breathing slow, the small mammals, in their burrows and hollows and underroot homes, began to stir. Time to emerge, time for the night shift. Their sharp, bright eyes adjusted to the dimming light. Their whiskers read the air. Their small hearts beat fast with the eternal alertness of the small and the prey. And the stars came out, first one near the horizon, then more, then many, then the whole, wide, and ancient sky full of the same stars we see tonight. The Jurassic night settled over the world, over the breathing forests and the slow rivers and the warm seas and the distant volcanic ridges still glowing faintly in the dark where new ocean floor was being born. A world at rest. A world continuing as it had continued for billions of years before, and as it would continue for billions more. The Jurassic ended. Everything ends in time. The period closed, not with a single dramatic moment, but with slow change, shifting climates, changing sea levels, new pressures on ancient ecosystems. Many Jurassic species did not survive into the Cretaceous. They gave way, made room, became part of the stone record, waiting to be found. But much survived. The dinosaurs continued, and they evolved into hundreds of new Cretaceous forms, including the famous ones, Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus, Velociraptor, all of them descendants of the Jurassic world. The early birds continued, they diversified, they filled the skies. The small mammals continued, still small, still patient, still waiting. The ginkgo trees continued, the cycads in reduced numbers, the ferns, the conifers. The seas continued, full of new species but built on the deep foundations of Jurassic ocean life. And deep in the stone, the fossils of the Jurassic waited, patient as only stone can be patient, waiting for a species that did not yet exist to develop the curiosity and the tools to find them and the language to tell their stories, waiting for nights like this one, waiting for you. You are, in a very real sense, the heir of the Jurassic, and not metaphorically, literally. The oxygen you breathe tonight was put into the atmosphere by ancient photosynthetic life going back billions of years, but the Jurassic forest contributed to it. The carbon in your body was once in the air, once in plants, once in the food webs of ancient worlds. Some of it may have cycled through Jurassic ecosystems before finding its way, through uncountable transformations, into you. The birds singing outside your window in the morning carry feathers that evolved in the Jurassic. The small mammals who became your ancestors were shaped profoundly by their 100 million years of hiding in the shadows of dinosaurs, their keen senses, their warm blood, their complex brains, all of it forged in that long waiting. Your brain, the remarkable, complicated, your dreaming organ that is currently doing whatever it does when you sleep, is the product of that long lineage, shaped by pressures going back to the Jurassic and beyond, built from evolutionary experiments and modifications stretching across hundreds of millions of years. You're not separate from that story. You're its current chapter. Whatever comes next, in your life, in the life of our species, in the long life of this planet, will be shaped, in part, by what is happening right now, by the choices made in our time, by the stories told in the dark. Every era is a bridge to the next. The Jurassic did not know it was a bridge. It just lived, fully, in its own time. Maybe that is enough. Maybe that is all any of us can do. Live fully in our own time, and trust that the story continues. The story is growing softer now. You can feel it maybe. The way a fire gets quieter as it burns lower. Still warm, still present, but softer. We have walked a long way together tonight, across 150 million years, through forests and seas and ancient skies, through the lives of creatures who never knew we would one day think about them. And now the walk is becoming a drift, the way a boat drifts when the oars are lifted from the water, still moving, still going somewhere, but not pushing anymore, just carried. Let yourself be carried now, by the slow current of this story, by the warmth of the night around you, by your own breath, moving in and out, steady and soft and ancient. Every living thing breathes, in some form, in some way. Plants breathe, taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen in the light, reversing it in the dark. Their breathing is slower than ours, measured in the long rhythms of the day rather than the quick rhythms of the chest. But breathing nonetheless. Fish breathe through gills that pull dissolved oxygen from the water, a form of breathing so different from ours, and yet governed by the same need, the same fundamental chemistry of life. The Jurassic sauropods breathed, long, slow breaths filling enormous lungs, in and out, in and out. Their breathing would have been so deep and slow that you could have watched their sides rise and fall from a distance. The small Jurassic mammals breathed fast and shallow, the way small warm-blooded animals do, their hearts beating quickly, their lungs moving rapidly, a metabolism burning hot and bright and brief. And you breathe now. Your breath, at this moment, connects you to every breathing thing that has ever lived on this planet. The same oxygen, the same need, the same continuous ordinary miracle of air moving in and life continuing, in and out, in and out. Don't force it. Don't control it. Just notice it. Feel the natural rhythm of your breathing, the way it slows when you stop thinking about it. You are part of the breathing world. You have always been part of it. I want to give you one last image before we close. Go back to that Jurassic plain. One more time. It is early morning, before dawn even. The sky's that deep, dark blue that comes just before the light begins. The stars are still bright, all of them, the same ones, steady and patient above the dark silhouettes of the tall conifers. Something large is moving on the plain, and you can hear it before you see it. The deep, soft compression of the earth, the slow rhythm of a enormous feet. A sauropod, moving alone in the pre-dawn dark, walking slowly toward the tree line, its shape huge and dark against the slightly lighter sky, its neck moving gently with each step. It does not know the world will change. It does not know that millions of years from now, its bones will lie in stone in mountains that have not yet been built. It does not know that a species not yet imagined will dig those bones from the earth and hold them gently and wonder. It just walks through the warm pre-dawn dark, toward the trees, patient, calm, enormous, alive. Watch it for a moment. Let it go. Let the image soften and fade the way images do at the edge of sleep. The shape of the sauropod becoming indistinct. The stars blurring slightly. The sound of its footsteps growing distant, and then gone. You have done something remarkable tonight. You have held still in the dark and let a story 150 million years old wash over you. That is not a small thing. That is curiosity. That is wonder. That is one of the most human things there is. This reaching out toward the ancient and the vast and the unknown, and finding in it not fear but peace. The Jurassic world rests. It rests in the stone of every continent, in the fossils in museum drawers and mountain cliffs and desert badlands, in the ginkgo trees on city streets, in the feathers of every bird, in the ancient brain structures of every mammal. It rests in you, in a way, in the deep inherited body that carries the long history of life, and now you rest too. Wherever you are, whatever your day held, whatever tomorrow will bring, right now in this moment you're just here, breathing, warm, safe, held by the ordinary miracle of being alive on this slowly turning planet. The world is old, enormously old, and it has carried so much, so many lives, so many extinctions, so many new beginnings. It is carrying you now, gently, patiently, the way it has carried everything. Let it hold you. Let your breathing slow. Let the day go. Let the Jurassic drift around the edges of your mind like warm green light through ancient ferns. The sauropods are resting. The small mammals are curled in their dark, safe places. The pterosaurs are tucked against the cliff face, wings folded, eyes closed. The stars are turning slowly overhead, and you are resting too, safe, warm, part of this long, beautiful breathing story. Take one slow breath in, hold it for just a moment, and let it go. Good. We have already walked a long way together through the Jurassic. We have visited the great sauropods on the wide green plains. We have swum in warm ancient seas. We have watched feathered creatures in high branches discover slowly what wings could do. We have sat by Jurassic streams and listened to water over stone. Tonight, we go even deeper, into the quieter corners of that ancient world, into questions that don't have complete answers, into the long, slow poetry of deep time, and into rest. Always, always into rest. There is a word I want to sit with tonight. Ancient. We use it casually. An ancient city, an ancient forest, an ancient custom. But when we apply it to the Jurassic, when we say that world was ancient, we need to let that word expand to its full size. The city of Rome is ancient. It is roughly 2,700 years old. When you walk through the old parts of Rome and touch its stones, you're touching something that feels impossibly far back in human history. But 2,700 years is nothing, not even a breath in geological time. The Egyptian pyramids are older, about 4,500 years. They feel ancient beyond measure, and yet 4,500 years is still nothing, still less than a single page in the enormous book of Earth's history. The dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago. That is 14,000 times longer ago than the pyramids were built. And the Jurassic, the world we have been visiting, ended 145 million years ago. More than 30,000 times longer ago than the pyramids. I want you to feel the scale of that. Not to be overwhelmed by it. Not to feel small in a frightening way, but to feel small in the way that looking at stars makes you feel small, gently, peacefully, with a kind of awe that loosens something in the chest. We are very, very new here. This planet was ancient long before we arrived, and it will continue long after we are gone. There is something deeply restful in that, in the idea that the world does not depend on us to keep it going, that it was fine before us, that it will find its way after us. We are guests, remarkable, curious, creative, complicated guests, but guests. And a good guest knows when to be still, knows when to stop talking and just listen, knows when to rest. I want to talk about stone tonight, because stone is the great keeper of Jurassic memory, and there is a quality to stone that I think we can learn from. Stone is patient in a way that nothing living can quite match. A piece of limestone, formed from the compressed shells of countless marine creatures over millions of years of Jurassic seafloor, does not rush. It does not worry. It does not anticipate. It simply is. Squeeze it between your hands and it is cool and smooth and completely present. Not thinking about yesterday, not anxious about tomorrow, just there. Solid, quiet, present. We find Jurassic fossils in limestone all over the world, in the Great Cliffs of Dorset in England, the Jurassic Coast as it is now called, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where the sea cliffs reveal millions of years of rock layers, full of ammonites and ichthyosaur bones and belemnites, in the limestone of Bavaria in Germany, where the first Archaeopteryx was found, in the Morrison Formation of the American West, a vast layer of Jurassic rock stretching across Colorado, Utah, Wyoming and other states, one of the richest dinosaur fossil deposits in the world. All of it stone, all of it patient, all of it waiting. When paleontologists work at a site like the Morrison Formation, they're essentially in conversation with that patience. They move slowly because the stone demands slowness. They are careful because the stone has been careful, preserving these details for 150 million years, and a single careless moment with a hammer can destroy what time preserved. There is a lesson in that rhythm, in the pace that stone sets. Move slowly, be careful, pay attention. The important things are preserved when we treat them gently. Let me take you somewhere specific tonight, a scene, small and quiet, ordinary by Jurassic standards. It is evening. The light is fading from golden to grey. A warm rain has been falling for an hour. Not heavy, just steady. The kind of rain that doesn't demand your attention, but simply fills the air and softens the world. You're under a large tree fern. Its broad fronds spread above you like a natural umbrella, and the rain drips from their tips in a steady, gentle rhythm. Drip, drip, drip. Each drop landing in the soft, wet soil with a tiny, satisfying sound. The air smells extraordinary, that deep, complex smell of warm rain in a living forest. The petrichor we talked about before mixed with the resinous scent of the conifers and the green, clean smell of wet ferns. Around you, the forest is quiet. Most animals have found shelter or slowed in the rain, but not everything. A group of small lizard-like creatures moves through the undergrowth near your feet. Fast, small, scurrying. They are hunting insects driven out by the rain, beetles and early fly relatives crawling on the underside of wet leaves. In the high branches above, something rustles. A feathered creature adjusting its position, smoothing its feathers. The feathers shed the rain in the same way modern birds' feathers do. Slightly oily at the surface, water beading and rolling off. The technology of feathers, already perfect in the Jurassic. The rain continues. There's drip, 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 from the fern fronds above into the soft Jurassic earth below. This is a moment that happened, not imagined from nothing, but extrapolated from everything we know. The climate records in ancient rock, the fossil evidence of these creatures, the preserved spores of these plants. This moment was real. It happened countless times across the millions of years of the Jurassic. Rain fell on living things. Living things were wet and sheltered and waited, and the evening came, as evenings always do. Let us pause here and notice something. The Jurassic world, for all its strangeness to our eyes, was governed by the same fundamental rules as the world we live in today. Gravity pulled things down. Light gave energy to plants. Plants fed plant-eaters. Plant-eaters fed meat-eaters. Death fed the decomposers. The decomposers fed the soil fed the plants, the same circle, the same ancient circle, turning and turning the way it has turned for hundreds of millions of years. Every atom in every creature in the Jurassic has been used again and again since then. The carbon in a sauropod's bones eventually became carbon in the soil, in ancient plants, in ancient sea creatures, in rock, in coal, in the air, in a tree, in a leaf, in an insect, in a bird, in a person. Matter doesn't disappear, it just changes form, takes new shapes, finds new purposes. The same atoms that were in Jurassic creatures are in you now. Not symbolically, literally. Somewhere in your body, in your bones, in your blood, in the water in your cells. There are atoms that have been through the whole history of the Earth, through Jurassic forests and ancient seas, through the compressed darkness of the deep Earth, through volcanic eruptions and ocean chemistry and the slow cycling of geological time. You're made of ancient things, the most ancient things. You're made of the universe itself, recycled and reformed into this particular shape, at this particular moment, lying in the dark and breathing and listening to a quiet story about a world that was here before you. For a moment, just breathe. Feel the weight of your body, the solidness of it, the warmth of it. Ancient matter, alive. I want to take you to a specific place on Earth tonight, a place you can visit today, a place where the Jurassic is not hidden deep underground but is visible on the surface, exposed by millions of years of erosion. the Morrison Formation, stretching across the American West through Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, New Mexico, and several other states. The Morrison Formation is a layer of ancient rock deposited during the late Jurassic Period. Roughly 150 million years ago, this region was a floodplain. Wide, flat, crossed by slow rivers and dotted with floodplain lakes. Think of something like the modern Serengeti in Africa, vast, open, full of large animals, but Jurassic. Sauropods moved across this ancient floodplain in numbers that would have been almost unimaginable. Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, Camarasaurus, all found here. Allosaurus hunted here. Stegosaurus moved through here, with its famous double row of bony plates along its back. Over time, rivers and floods buried bones in this floodplain. Layer by layer, the sediment accumulated. The bones fossilized. The floodplain became rock. And then, tens of millions of years later, the Rocky Mountains began to form, pushed up by tectonic forces. The land rose. Rivers began to cut down through the layers of rock. Erosion worked for millions of years, and slowly, the Morrison Formation was exposed. Today you can drive through the Badlands of Utah and see it. Those distinctive bands of colour in the rock faces. Greys and greens and purples and reds. Each colour a different layer, a different moment in time. And running through those layers sometimes a darker colour. A line of harder rock, bone. Dinosaur National Monument on the Colorado-Utah border contains one of the most extraordinary fossil exposures in the world. A wall of Jurassic rock where the bones of dozens of dinosaurs are visible, still partially embedded in the stone. You can stand in front of that wall and look directly at bones that were living 150 million years ago. It is, people say, one of the most humbling experiences available to a human being, to stand at that wall and see time made visible, the past made stone, the story made permanent. We haven't spent much time with Stegosaurus yet. Let us sit with this creature for a while tonight. Stegosaurus was one of the most distinctive animals of the Jurassic, if you can picture it, and most people can. It was a large, four-legged plant eater, roughly the size of a bus. Its body was wide and somewhat low. Its head was remarkably small. Tiny, really, in proportion to its enormous body. And running along its back in two alternating rows, a series of large, flat, bony plates, standing upright from the spine, pointing toward the sky, and at the end of its tail, 4 long, sharp spikes, 2 on each side. What were the plates for? This has been debated by scientists for over a century. The most current thinking is that the plates were primarily for display and recognition, possibly also for some temperature regulation, though this is less certain. They may have been brightly coloured, covered in skin filled with blood vessels that could blush red or orange as a signal. A Stegosaurus, flushing its plates with colour to signal another Stegosaurus or warn a predator. A living, walking display board. The tail spikes, called a thagomizer, a name that actually originated in a Far Side cartoon before being adopted with good humour by actual paleontologists, were almost certainly defensive weapons. There is fossil evidence. Allosaurus tail vertebrae with holes matching the size and spacing of Stegosaurus tail spikes. Evidence of an encounter that happened 150 million years ago, preserved in stone. Life defending itself, life persisting through danger, the same drive that makes every creature fight for its next breath. In the late Jurassic afternoon, a Stegosaurus moves through a cycad grove. Its plates catch the last warm light. They glow amber and orange in the low sun. Its feet move slowly, surely. Its small head dips to eat the low ferns beneath the cycads. It is not thinking, not planning, not worried. It is just here, moving, eating, being. The plates glow in the amber light, and the Jurassic afternoon holds it gently. The story has been going for a while now, and I want to check in with you. How does your body feel right now? Notice your feet, heavy perhaps, warm, relaxed. Notice your legs, resting against whatever surface you're lying on. Notice your stomach, rising and falling with each breath. Notice your hands, open, maybe, soft, not gripping anything. Notice your face, the tiny muscles around your eyes and jaw. Are they holding tension? Let them go. Let your face be completely still and soft. Notice your breath, not trying to change it, just noticing the natural, easy rhythm of it, how it slows when you stop directing it, how your body knows exactly how to breathe without any help from your thinking mind. Your body knows how to do this. It has been doing this your whole life. While you slept as a child, while you dreamed, while you rested between one day and the next. Your body is very good at this. Let it do its work now. Let your mind be quiet. Let the story continue in the background, soft as rain. In the interest of giving the full picture of the Jurassic world, let us visit one more kind of creature tonight, the night hunters, not the large theropods. They were mostly, we believe, active during the day or at dusk and dawn, but smaller predators. Small, fast, quick-eyed creatures that move through the Jurassic darkness in ways we are only beginning to understand. Some small theropods may have had large eyes, proportionally larger than those of bigger dinosaurs, suggesting they were better adapted for low-light conditions. Like owls in the modern world, which have enormous eyes to gather as much light as possible in the dark, and of course, the small feathered ones, the early relatives of birds, moving through the dark on light feet, hunting insects, hunting small lizards, hunting whatever moved in the darkness of the Jurassic night, and the mammals, always the mammals, emerging fully only after dark. Their world was the night world, the Jurassic night, which we have no photographs of, no recordings of, no living memory of, but which was real, which was full of small, warm-blooded creatures with bright eyes and quick hearts, moving through a darkness broken only by starlight and whatever light the Jurassic moon cast down. Was the moon the same? Almost. The moon in the Jurassic was slightly closer to the Earth than it is today. It is slowly moving away from us, a few centimeters per year. So the Jurassic moon may have appeared slightly larger in the sky, slightly brighter, as her casting slightly stronger shadows on the fern meadows and the still rivers, a slightly larger, brighter moon, shining down on small furry creatures moving through the ancient dark, and on us, 150 million years later, still turning our faces up to the same moon, still creatures of the night in our own way, still small and warm in the dark, our hearts beating, our eyes soft, our minds drifting between waking and sleep. I want to return to fossils one more time, because I keep coming back to them, and I think I know why. There is something about a fossil that feels like a gift. Not a gift that was intentionally given. The creature that became the fossil had no intention of leaving anything behind. It was not trying to communicate with the future. It was just living and dying and settling into the mud. But the gift happened anyway. The gift of presence, the gift of evidence, the gift of knowing. When a child holds an ammonite fossil for the first time, that smooth, heavy spiral stone, something happens. Something quiet but real. A connection is made across 150 million years. Two living things, separated by all of deep time, momentarily in the same place. The child's warm hand around the cold stone. Life touching the record of life. That moment, small and ordinary and happening in natural history museums and fossil shops and rocky beaches all over the world every day, is one of the more remarkable things that happens on this planet. We reach back, across time, with our hands and our curiosity and our need to know, and the past reaches back in stone. The Jurassic is over. Yes, it has been over for 145 million years, and yet the ginkgo tree on the city street, still here, the fern in the forest, uncurling its new frond in the spring, still here, the morning song of birds in the trees, descendants in an unbroken line of feathered Jurassic creatures, still here, the crocodile in the river, motionless and patient, still here, the ammonite fossil in the museum case, still here, the limestone cliff full of Jurassic shells standing above a cold modern sea, still here, the atom of carbon in your body that was once in a Jurassic leaf, still here, the deep mammalian brain that learned to navigate darkness in the shadow of dinosaurs, still here, in you, right now. The Jurassic is not gone, it is transformed, it is embedded, it is part of the structure of the world we live in. And the structure of our own bodies, we are the Jurassic continuing, we are everything that ever was continuing, in new shapes, in new forms, in new awareness. Outside, wherever you are, the world is turning, silently, continuously, as it has turned for 4.5 billion years. At this moment, on the other side of the planet, it is daytime. Someone is in the middle of their afternoon, eating lunch or walking or working. The sun is on their face, and where you are, it is night. You're in the dark half of the turning world, and in the dark things rest. Things grow quiet, things let go. In the Jurassic, the world turned at the same pace, the same rhythm of day and night, light and dark, activity and rest. The same ancient alternation that life has organized itself around since before the dinosaurs existed. Your body knows this rhythm, your cells know it, your hormones know it. The chemistry of sleep and waking is timed to the turning of the earth, to the presence and absence of light. You're not fighting the world when you sleep, you're participating in it. You are moving with it, turning with it, doing exactly what your biology expects and needs. Sleep is not absence. Sleep is participation. You're participating in the ancient turning right now, in the dark, at rest. I want to give you one last image. Close your eyes, if they aren't already closed. You're in the Jurassic, not on the open plain, not in the forest, not by the sea. You're in a small sheltered valley, surrounded on 3 sides by gentle slopes covered in ferns and cycads. A small stream runs through the centre of the valley, catching the last light of the day. The air is perfectly still, no wind tonight, no rain, just the warm, quiet air of a Jurassic evening, holding the smell of the day, the green smell, the warm earth smell, the faint resin smell of the conifers on the slopes above. A family of ornithopods is settling near the stream. They have been here before. This is a known place, a safe place. They move close together, their bodies in contact, sharing warmth. Somewhere on the slope above, invisible in the shadow of the ferns, a small feathered creature is tucked against a branch, asleep, its feathers fluffed against the cooling evening air, its eyes closed, its breathing steady. The stream makes its soft sound. The stars appear, one by one, the same stars, always the same stars. The valley is quiet. Everything in it is resting. Everything in it is part of the long, continuous breathing story of life on this beautiful ancient planet, and you are resting too, part of that same story. Chapter following chapter, world following world, breath following breath, and with it, we have now travelled together through a very long, very ancient story. We have covered the shape of the Jurassic world, its climate, its forests, its seas, its giants, and its small hidden ones, its colours and its sounds, its fossils and the people who find them. the deep, patient record of the stone, the connection between that ancient world and the world you live in now. We have travelled through perhaps our longest night together, and now it is time to rest completely. Not to drift towards sleep, to arrive there. If you're still awake, then let this be the last thing you hold. You are safe. You are warm. You're part of a story that is 4.5 billion years old and still going. You don't need to do anything right now. You don't need to be anywhere. You don't need to solve anything. You just need to breathe and let the world turn and sleep. The Jurassic rests in its stone. The small mammals are curled in the dark. The ginkgo trees are still on their roots. The stars are turning slowly overhead. And you are resting, safe. The story is still here. The Jurassic is still here. Patient and quiet and ancient, waiting in the stone, waiting in the memory of the world, waiting for you to find your comfortable position and take one slow breath and let everything else go. So do that now, find your position, take that breath, let it out slowly. Good. You have come a long way in this story. We have walked across the wide green plains of the Jurassic together. We have visited the giants and the small ones, the sky creatures and the sea creatures. We have sat by ancient streams and watched the same stars we see tonight rise over a world that existed 150 million years ago. Tonight, in this fifth part of our journey, we go to the most quiet places, the in-between places, the places where the Jurassic world simply existed, not dramatically, not remarkably, but ordinarily, daily, in the small, unremarkable moments that made up most of life then, just as most of life now is small and unremarkable and quietly beautiful. This is where we rest tonight, in the ordinary, in the gentle, in the soft, breathing now. There is something I want to offer you tonight that we haven't fully explored yet. Not the spectacular moments of the Jurassic, not the great hunts or the dramatic geological events or the extraordinary fossils, just an ordinary morning, the kind of morning that happened millions of times across the 50 million years of the Jurassic. So ordinary that nothing about it was preserved, no fossil, no trace, no record in any rock anywhere on Earth. It just happened and was gone. And yet it was real. Imagine the light beginning, not sunrise yet, just the very first suggestion of light at the eastern horizon, a softening of the darkness, the stars near the horizon beginning to fade, not because they have moved, but because the sky around them is becoming very gradually less dark. The animals that have been resting begin to stir, not with urgency, not suddenly, just the way sleeping things stir when the world around them begins to change, a shift in position, a slow blink, a long, quiet exhale. A sauropod, which has been standing in a half-sleep through the night, lifts its great head slightly, its nostrils take in the morning air. Everything is familiar, the smell of the forest, the stream, the cycads. No alarm, no danger. It lowers its head again, not ready yet, just checking. This is something we recognise, isn't it? That moment of waking, the first tentative contact with the world, the check, is everything okay? And if the answer is yes, the return to rest, the eyes closing again, the body settling back into its warmth. Even the largest creature that ever walked the earth did this, woke halfway, checked, and went back to rest. You can do the same. I check. Everything is okay. Go back to rest. I want to talk about something that the Jurassic understands better than we do. The language of slow things. We live in a fast world. Everything moves quickly. Information, expectations, deadlines, news. The pace of modern life is by any historical standard extraordinary. Even compared to 100 years ago, the speed of daily life has increased enormously. And our nervous systems, still wired for a world of slow, patient rhythms, sometimes struggle. We are not built for this speed. Not really. Not at the cellular level, not at the neurological level. We are built for the rhythms of the natural world, the rhythm of seasons, the rhythm of day and night, the rhythm of planting and harvest, of effort and rest, of movement and stillness. The Jurassic knew only these rhythms. The sauropod did not rush. It could not rush. Its metabolism, its size, its entire biological system was built for slowness. It moved slowly. It digested slowly. It grew slowly. Its heart beat slowly. Estimates suggest that a very large sauropod's heart may have beaten as slowly as 4 to 6 times per minute at rest, compared to a resting human heart rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute, 4 to 6 beats per minute. Imagine your heart beating that slowly, that stillness, that deep, unhurried pulse. Close your eyes and try to feel that for a moment. Not 4 beats per minute. That is too slow for a warm-blooded mammal like you, but slower than usual, slower than the day demands, slower than the world pushes you to go. Feel your heart beating, slow, steady, patient, an ancient pulse. Your heart knows this rhythm, and under all the speed and noise of the modern world, it still knows how to slow down, how to find the ancient pace. Let it find that pace now. Let us go to the Jurassic Sea one more time, but tonight we visit it after dark. The moon is up, that slightly larger, slightly closer Jurassic moon, casting its silver light across the surface of the warm Tethys Sea. The water moves gently, not rough tonight, a long, slow swell, the kind that travels for thousands of miles across open ocean before arriving here at this shallow coastal edge and breaking in a soft, unhurried rhythm on the dark beach. Sound first. That sound. The sound of waves. It is one of the oldest sounds a human ear can hear, not the same specific waves. Those are long gone, but the same physics, the same pattern, the same rise and fall, advance and retreat, is the rhythm of water meeting land. That sound has been going since the first oceans formed, roughly 4 billion years ago. It was going in the Jurassic, and it is going now somewhere on every coast of the world. Out in the dark Jurassic water, the ichthyosaurs are moving, barely visible in the moonlight, just a shape surfacing now and then, a quick breath of air, and then gone again, back beneath the silver-lit surface. They move through the night water with ease. The dark is no obstacle for them. Ichthyosaurs had enormous eyes, some of the largest proportional eye sizes of any vertebrate ever discovered. In some species, the eye was as large as a dinner plate. Eyes that large can gather extraordinary amounts of light. In the darkness of the deep Jurassic Ocean, those enormous eyes could see, could navigate, could hunt. There is a lesson, perhaps, in that. In developing the ability to see in the dark, in not being afraid of it, in growing eyes large enough to find the light that exists even when it seems like there is none. The ichthyosaur surfaces, one quiet breath, and dives again, gone into the dark, at home in it. I want to spend a moment with the ferns. We have mentioned them many times in this story. They are the carpet of the Jurassic world, the constant background, the soft green unhurried presence underfoot everywhere you walk in that ancient landscape. Ferns are older than the dinosaurs, much older. Ferns first appeared roughly 360 million years ago, long before the first dinosaur took its first step, long before the Jurassic began. They survived the Great Permian extinction, which killed more than 90% of all species on Earth. They survived the extinction that ended the dinosaurs. They survived every ice age. Today there are more than 10,000 species of ferns living on Earth. 10,000. They are in tropical forests and temperate woodlands and rocky mountain streams, and even some desert environments. Wherever there is a little moisture and a little shade, ferns find a way. They do not flower. They do not produce seeds. They reproduce by releasing spores, microscopic, dust-like particles that drift on the air and settle wherever they land. And if conditions are right, a new fern grows. No fanfare, no fruit, no flower, just a spore, drifting on the air, settling, and quietly beginning to grow. There is a quality to ferns that I find deeply calming. They don't announce themselves. They don't compete with the large and dramatic things around them. They just grow, in the shade, in the margins, in the quiet places that other plants leave behind. And they have been doing this for 360 million years. Maybe there is something to be said for being a fern, for growing quietly in the shade, for not needing to be the largest or most dramatic thing in the landscape, for simply being present and green and alive for 360 million years. You're now in the middle of a very long night, whether it is literally the middle of your night or just a quiet moment in a long evening. You're here, present, in the dark, listening, and I want to honour that for a moment, because it is not nothing choosing to lie down in the dark and let a slow story carry you. In a world that offers so much noise and speed and stimulation, choosing quietness is actually a quiet act of courage. Choosing to rest, choosing to let the mind go slow, choosing to stop directing and managing and planning and just be. That is not easy for most people. It requires something, a letting go, a trust that the world will keep going while you stop watching it for a while, and it will. The Jurassic teaches us that, if nothing else. The world kept going for 150 million years of Jurassic time without anyone watching it, without anyone directing it, without anyone managing it. It just went, beautifully, abundantly, fully, and the world will keep going tonight while you sleep. Your presence is not required to maintain it. You can let go fully, without guilt, without worry, without anything but the slow, quiet permission to rest. For a moment, just breathe. Notice how little effort it takes. Notice how your body already knows. Let me tell you something tonight that I find quietly wonderful. Something about what became of the Jurassic world. Not the dramatic part, the extinction, the transformation, but the quiet part, the invisible part, the part that happened underground, in the dark, over millions of years. Many of the Jurassic forests, those vast warm green forests of conifers and ferns and cycads, were eventually buried by floods, by sediment, by the slow accumulation of the Earth's layers, and underground, under pressure, over millions of years, that ancient plant material was transformed into coal. The coal that has been mined and burned throughout human history, in the furnaces of the Industrial Revolution, in the power plants of the 20th century, much of it is compressed, transformed ancient forest, ancient plant material from hundreds of millions of years ago, including the Jurassic and earlier periods. When a coal fire burns, it releases energy that was captured from sunlight by ancient plants, sunlight that fell on Jurassic forests, sunlight that ancient ferns converted into biological material through the patient chemistry of photosynthesis. Ancient sunlight, stored for millions of years in the dark, and then released. There is something almost dreamlike about that chain of events. Sunlight falling on a Jurassic fern, the fern growing, the fern dying, the slow burial, the millions of years of darkness and pressure, and then the fire, the light and warmth released back into the world, ancient sunlight finding its way back to the surface, finding its way back to warmth. Nothing is truly lost, it just waits, in the dark, patient as stone. I want to tell you something about why we tell stories like this one. Stories about deep time, about ancient worlds, about creatures that lived and died long before we existed. We could spend our time on more immediately practical things. There are always more practical things, but humans keep coming back to the ancient. We keep building museums full of fossils. We keep writing books and making documentaries and telling stories about worlds we will never see. We keep sending spacecraft to other planets to look for signs of ancient life. We're drawn to the deep past. I think it is because the deep past reminds us of something that is easy to forget in the speed of modern life, that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, that the particular moment we're living in, with all its urgency, all its pressures, all its specific concerns and fears, is one moment in an enormous story. A story that was going on for billions of years before we arrived, and that will continue for billions of years after our chapter ends. And in that context, our worries, while real and valid, become just slightly smaller, just slightly more manageable. Not because they don't matter, but because the world is large enough to hold them, large enough and old enough and patient enough to hold everything, including you, including all of it. The world is large enough. I've been telling you about the Jurassic for a long time now, and I realise we have never watched a sauropod sleep, so let us do that now. In the late evening, as the last light fades from the Jurassic sky, a group of large sauropods moves to their night position, near a dense stand of conifers that provide some shelter from the cooling air, near a stream for water if needed in the night. They are Diplodocus, long and low with their famous whip-like tails trailing behind them. Their necks hang forward and slightly down in the resting position, the muscles relaxing, the enormous weight of the neck no longer fully supported. They do not lie down. Animals of this size almost certainly slept standing. The mechanics of their bodies, the sheer weight, the difficulty of rising again would have made lying down for long periods impractical. Like elephants, which also sleep mostly standing, though they do lie down for occasional deeper sleep. So they stand, in the growing dark, their breathing slow, their eyes partially closed, their tails still. Imagine standing near them. In the darkness they are mostly shapes, large, dark, warm shapes. You can hear them breathing, that deep, slow, steady breath of something enormous at rest. You can feel, if you stand very close, the warmth radiating from their great bodies. They are not fully asleep, not in the way we think of sleep. Large prey animals rarely allow themselves to be fully unconscious for long. They sleep in stages, in light and deep cycles, always maintaining some level of awareness. But they are resting, deeply, fully. Yeah, their bodies doing the slow, patient work of rest, repairing, restoring, processing the enormous day's intake of plant material, growing, resting, and you can rest too, with the same fullness, the same depth, the same permission. Let me build you a soundscape for sleep, the Jurassic night at its quietest. Start with the insects, a soft, rhythmic background, not loud, not insistent, just present. The way summer insects sound on a warm night, a continuous gentle hum, rising and falling slightly with the breeze, present everywhere and nowhere specific. Add the stream, close enough to hear, far enough to be soft, the water moving over stone in that ancient constant language, irregular but rhythmic, each small rush and trickle different, but the overall pattern steady. Add the trees, the tall conifers, barely moving in the faint night breeze, a soft sighing sound, the kind of sound that tall trees make when the air moves through them, almost like breathing, the forest breathing. Add, very distantly, the sea, just the suggestion of it, a low, slow sound at the very edge of hearing, the long Jurassic waves arriving at the shore in the dark, advancing and retreating, over and over, as they have done for billions of years, and over all of it, silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of quiet. The quiet that holds all these sounds gently, that gives them space, that makes them soft. This is the sound of the Jurassic night. This is the sound the world makes when it rests. Let it surround you now. Let the insects hum. Let the streams speak. Let the trees breathe. Let the distant sea advance and retreat. Oh, and let yourself be part of that quiet. I want to give you one last way of thinking about time tonight. Not the numbers, not the millions and hundreds of millions that are too large to feel. Think of time as a river, a very long river, flowing from a source somewhere in the deep past. Billions of years ago, when the first atoms of the early universe began to cool and form the matter that would eventually become stars and planets and life. And flowing toward, we don't know where, the future. The long open future that none of us can see. You're in this river right now, not watching it from the bank, in it, moving with it. The Jurassic was a place in this river, a long, rich, wide stretch. 50 million years of warm water and abundant life. A stretch of the river so long that we can barely see from one end to the other. And the current carried everything forward. The dinosaurs, the ferns, the small mammals, the ichthyosaurs, the rain that fell on the ancient forests, the spores that drifted on the warm Jurassic air, all of it carried forward into the Cretaceous, into the Great Extinction, into the Long Recovery, into the Age of Mammals, into the Ice Ages, into the first humans, into cities and language and music and science and stories told in the dark, into tonight, into you. You are the river at this moment, moving forward, carrying everything that came before you, even if you can't name it or see it. And ahead of you, more river, more current, more time. You don't need to see where it goes. You just need to float and trust the current and rest. I want to take a quiet moment to acknowledge something. All of the creatures we have visited in this story, every sauropod, every pterosaur, every small feathered thing in a high branch, every ichthyosaur in the warm Jurassic Sea, all of them lived full lives. They were not extras in our story. They were not background. They were not placeholders waiting for us to arrive. They were complete. Their lives were complete. Their world was complete. They lived, and they experienced whatever it is that creatures experience: the warmth of sunlight, the satisfaction of food, the movement of their bodies through the world, perhaps something like rest, perhaps something like peace. And then they passed. Not all at once, not dramatically for most of them, just in their time, generation by generation, species by species. And the world they left behind became the foundation for everything that came after. Their lives made our lives possible, not intentionally, not knowingly, but materially, factually, in the chemical and biological reality of how life on Earth works. They were part of the chain that led here. We are their inheritors, and maybe, in whatever small way is available to us, we can honour that. Not with ceremony, not with grand gestures, just with this, with curiosity, with the willingness to learn about them, to tell their stories, to hold their fossilised bones gently, to look at a ginkgo tree and think, you were there, to lie in the dark and let their ancient world wash over us and feel, for a moment, connected to that long chain of life. That is a form of honouring, and it costs nothing, and it gives something quiet and real. I want to paint you one final picture, the last Jurassic sunset, not the actual last one. We cannot know exactly when the Jurassic ended, not to the day or the year, but a late Jurassic sunset near the end of that long, remarkable era. The sun is lowering in the west over the ancient sea. The sky, the same physics of light, is doing what skies do at sunset. The short wavelengths scatter first, leaving the longer red and orange wavelengths to travel through more atmosphere, painting the horizon in colours: red, orange, a deep, rich amber, and above the amber, fading through orange to gold to pale yellow to the deepening blue of the approaching night. The Tethys Sea catches these colours. The water, which was blue-green in the daylight, is now gold and pink and copper in the evening light. Small waves on the surface catch the last light and throw it back in bright sparks. On the beach, a group of pterosaurs is landing, their wide wings folding with that distinctive folding motion, like slow, large fans being closed. They settle on the rock outcroppings above the tide line, arranging themselves for the night, their shadows long and dramatic in the low light. Out on the plain behind the beach, a herd of sauropods is silhouetted against the golden sky. 6, 7, 8 enormous shapes, their long necks distinctive and beautiful against the colours of the evening. They're moving slowly toward the forest line, going to their night place. The light is fading, the colours are deepening, the stars are beginning, and the Jurassic world, which has existed in this form for 50 million years, is settling into one more night. One ordinary, unremarkable, extraordinary night, full of breathing things, full of life, full of the slow, patient, ancient wisdom of a world that knows exactly what it is doing. Watch it for a moment. The colours, the shapes, the slow movement, the deepening dark, and let it fade. Let the image soften at the edges, the way images do when sleep comes. Let the colours blur gently. Let the shapes become shadows. Let the shadows become nothing, and rest. This is where part 5 rests. We have now travelled together through 5 long, gentle journeys into the Jurassic world. We have covered the whole arc of that extraordinary era, from the breaking apart of Pangaea to the warm coastal seas, from the giants of the plain to the small ones in the dark, from the first feathered flyers to the patient stone that holds their memory. We have talked about colour and sound and smell. We have talked about time and stone and deep inheritance. We have talked about rest and permission and the long, slow wisdom of a world that has been doing this for billions of years. And through all of it, you have been here, breathing, present, drifting. Whatever state you are in right now, fully awake, half asleep, somewhere in between, you have done something tonight. You have given yourself the gift of slowness, of ancient stories, of a mind allowed to wander through deep time rather than scroll through the urgent surface of the present. That is not nothing. That is in fact something very important. And now the story grows very soft, like the last light of a Jurassic sunset, like the sound of the ancient sea at the very edge of hearing, like the breathing of something enormous and calm standing in the dark at rest. You are safe, you are warm, you are held by the long story of this world, which has been going on for 4.5 billion years and is still, quietly, going on right now, underneath everything, in the stone and the roots and the slow turning of the planet. It is holding you. It has always been holding you. Let it, fully, without condition, without effort, just rest. The sauropods are standing in the dark, the ferns are still, the ancient sea is breathing on its ancient shore, the stars are there, they are always there, and you are here, you are always here. Good night, sleep softly, sleep long, the Jurassic will wait. The world will wait, everything will wait, only your rest is needed now, only this, only the soft, slow sound of your breathing in the dark. The world turns slowly, and so do we.